Thank you for joining us, everybody. My name is Taryn Cochran from CBC Saskatchewan. We are sitting in a very iconic building in Regina, Studio One. If you're familiar with the band The Waltons, Jason Plumb and the Willing, if you've ever heard Paint the Whole Town Green at a Saskatchewan Rough Rider game, if you've seen the Razzle Dazzle cover band Fog Dog or their counterparts El Guitarro, you know this man sitting with me here, Mr. Jason Plumb, engineer, producer, local musician. What else can we add to that?
Just general fella.
General fella in town.
Regina fella, yeah.
So the reason we're here is you recently announced on Facebook that you are moving. You're moving on. And so we kind of wanted to take a little bit of time today and go through some of the magic that happened in this specific room that we're sitting in right now.
Great.
So one of the most prominent, I think, one of the most successful artists that have come out of here is a gentleman, young guy by the name of Colter Wall from Speedy Creek, Saskatchewan.
Yes, I've heard of him.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty common name these days. Steve Earle's a fan. He's doing exceptionally well. So he came here and he worked with you, and he did his debut EP, Imaginary Appalachia, and he recorded a song. You guys worked on a song together called Sleeping on the Blacktop.
We did, yeah.
Which since that time has garnered almost 12 million streams on Spotify.
Wow. Got
played in 2 Hollywood movies, 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri, as well as Hell or High Water. It's become basically his banner song. So can you tell me a little bit about the process? How did you and Colter work that song out?
He was actually staying with me as we were doing the production on that project. And I think he was playing it in the living room one day, the part of it. And I said, like, we were just kind of going through material, like what do we want to record, you know, like what songs do you have? And this is part of my process. I like to hear material before we start. And he was playing it in the living room, and I said, that sounds really great. What is that? And he goes, well, it's just something I've been kind of working on. I said, well, you got to finish that up, and we'll track that. And we came in, and that whole record was pretty special and unique in the way that it was vocal and guitar captured live. Yeah. And it was like, if it wasn't one take, it was 2 takes. And lots of times the first take was it. So it was pretty unique and special. And actually right where we're standing is where me and him did the hand claps.
Yeah, the stomp and the clap.
The stomps and the claps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, we put, the way I like to track claps, sometimes you put the machine on loop record and just clap away, and then they start stacking up. So you do some claps like this, and then the next round you go clap, clap, clap. Anyway, so me and him were doing it, and it feels a little ridiculous when you're doing the hand claps like that, just because 2 guys looking at each other in the eye, giving her. But yeah, that's I think that's the lead off track on that, isn't it? On that record? Yeah. Just a great song.
Yeah, and that song, when you guys had, it's so funny that you actually just heard him strumming it in your living room.
A few of the songs on that record were like that.
And it became one of the most far-reaching songs on that record. Now, that record also includes some other notable hits, but let's play a clip. We'll play a clip of Colter Wall Sleeping on a Blacktop for those viewing.
Sunshine beating on the good times, moonlight racing from the grave, string band playing more of that honky-tonks, pretty young thing going dancing in the rain.
So you were saying this was actually when Colter was first starting out, and a lot of his hardcore fans may not know this now unless they were following from the very start, but at the very start Colter had a kick drum with him, and that was kind of prominent in his live performance.
Yeah. When he came in here, he was pretty green. Like, he hadn't done very many shows, and actually I have partly you to thank too for.
I think I booked one of the first shows.
Yeah. And part of the reason to get him in and do a little bit of recording is that, he wanted to get on the radar of. I think you were doing it. Was it 20 to Watch, or what was it?
Yeah. So what happened was CBC Saskatchewan. We had started doing a New Year's Eve show where we did the first hour was artist to watch that year. Artist that did exceptionally well that year. The next hour was artist to watch, and it was Colter Wall was an artist to watch.
Yeah.
And you watched, and you helped make a bigger deal.
Well, you had seen him, and it was just a weird way how he landed here in the studio, and it was just all the stars aligned, and that happens with some projects. And we were talking about how a song sitting in the living room just the very beginnings turns into this great thing. And lots of times on an album, that's the way it goes. Sometimes the songs that you think that you've been playing for a couple of years and have road-worthy songs and are well arranged and everybody loves, sometimes they're harder to capture because there's almost this expectation. But when it's a brand new song, it's a fresh palette.
So we'll also invite people, if you're watching right now, we'll invite you to comment, and we'll have some questions for you as well in a little bit. But I want to talk about that brand new, you said coming into it, just not rehearsing a million times and coming into the studio and trying to reach that perfection. Mm-hmm. So you have worked with a lot of brand new artists who are just doing their first ever recording sessions. So for example, Kara Galemba, Every Little Light EP, Ghost Highway was one of the standout tracks from me in that album. So what is it like working with a brand new artist? Is it exciting in the fact that you can kind of teach them how everything works as you go?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of great reasons that I enjoy working with artists as their first record. Part of it is they've for sure never worked with a producer before, so they don't really know what to expect with a producer. So I can just, I can have my way.
Absolutely.
They just think, oh, this is how it is. Because I mean, admittedly, I can be not a control freak, but I can be fairly involved in lots of the recording processes to the point of doing some performing and always at the artist's invite and blessing. But like I said, the future is completely wide open with your first record and as a young artist, and you get one chance to make a first impression. And I don't know, in a lot of ways, I think back to Walton's first record that we did with a producer. Everything you do after that is kind of not measured by it, but compared to it, because that's your first experience working with somebody saying, I don't think you should sing it like that. And he was like, what do you mean? This is how I sing it. So it's just part of the process and growth as an artist. And I'm happy to be there for young singer-songwriters.
Well, let's take a listen to Kara Galemba's Ghost Highway. Now, we're going to go through some of the comments I've got here. So most of the comments so far have just been people wishing you luck. Peter K says, good luck, Jason. You've done the Saskatchewan music scene proud. So it's a very nice little pat on the back. Pete. Jane Robert writes, she used to love seeing the Waltons. Good luck with your next project. And one of the things I want to segue into is a young gentleman by the name of Andy Schaff writes, it was a really comfortable space to make the party, which is why I stayed for months. Jason was really generous, and I'll really miss it. So basically, you not only helped artists like Colter Wall, Kara Galemba create these masterpiece albums that many people are enjoying these days. You've also lent your studio and your time to having other people come in, such as Andy Schaff, who released The Party.
Yeah. The quick story with Andy was, I think I was down at Americana Music Fest in Nashville, chatting to some guy at the time that I didn't know at the bar. I think he was hanging out with some of the six-shooter people down in Nashville. And telling him a little bit about my studio. And he said, you said you have a studio in Regina. I'm working with a young artist that's looking for a studio just to kind of move in and work in. And I said, oh, yeah, who's that? And he said, his name's Andy Schaff. And I'd seen Andy and knew who he was. And huge fan of Bearer of Bad News.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we just got in touch. And Andy said, hey, man, I just need a place that I can come in and kind of move in and just do my thing. So I said, this is a place that should be used and utilized. Come in and spread out. Part of the beauty of the place is just the sheer size of it, is that you can set up multiple places to record and leave them set up. Also having enough channels to leave everything set up has been part of the beauty. But when Andy came in, I love him. He's just a sweet guy and one of the most brilliant songwriters that I've known for sure. So it was pretty easy just to leave him be. He was tech savvy. He knew how to run the gear, and it's like, man, have at it. Go for it, and good luck. So,
and I think it's great that you recognize the fact that with somebody like Andy Schaaf, where Bearer of Bad News was an album that he made in his basement, his parents' basement, I believe, and you knew that he knew exactly what he was doing, instrumentation wise and production wise, and he had some hands-on experience. Yeah. But he kind of went the same road that you went. So before you started the studio, you're self-taught. I mean, you did a lot of this just hands-on, hit the ground running kind of scenario.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the 90s during Walton's recording career, it was a different time. Then digital hadn't quite started to happen. It was just starting to happen in the later 90s, where you were seeing Pro Tools and a lot more studios. But we recorded to tape, and it was a different time back then. And you actually really needed an engineer, and you needed a tape op, you needed a tech to fix all the gear that would be going slow and down, and it wasn't something I was really interested in the production side or the engineering side. But we worked with a fantastic producer for like 3 records, Michael Philip Ojuoda, out of Toronto, who's responsible for some of the greatest Canadian records of all time, in my opinion. He was our producer, so that was really my only contact with a hands-on producer guy, and that was kind of my model as I started, is how the psychology works and how to communicate with an artist, gear aside. But this was my fourth studio. Technically, it seems like every 4 or 5 years I'm moving to another place. The juju wears out, and it's like, I need a new place. So.
But it's nice to have that change of pace sometimes, to kind of get a new outlook on things, much like taking a trip somewhere. I mean,
exactly.
You go and it's new scenery.
And or it's like some people just rearrange the furniture in the house, and it's like, wow, it feels like a new place.
It's good for the brain.
It is, and it's inspiring. Every place comes with new excitement and new possibilities. And when I got in here, I didn't know what the future held. All I knew, I was coming here to make my latest solo record. That's all I wanted it for initially.
And it became a much bigger thing.
It did. I was supposed to be here for 6 months, and 6
years later.
Yeah.
So you're technically one of those people that when you come over for coffee, you just never leave, right?
That's right. Yeah. I bring an overnight bag with me everywhere I go.
So I want to talk about another artist that was in the studio. A lot of people may be familiar with. An artist by the name of the Dead South, a dirty, gritty bluegrass band from Regina.
That's not that dirty now. Come on. Dirty-ish.
Dirty sounding. Attire-wise, they're very clean. One of the best-dressed bands in Saskatchewan.
I have to tell you before you finish your question, and I don't hate to cut you off, but when my son came in to hang out, and he's in and out when I'm working with Dead South, and they were in here, and we left, and my son, I think he was like 5 at the time, he said, "Are they bad guys?" It's like they look like bad guys.
They play the part, right?
Yep, typical bad guys.
Yeah, totally looked the part.
Yeah.
So the Dead South came in, and what was really exciting was they recorded an album with you called Illusion and Doubt. Now, you're no stranger to a Juno Award. A lot of people are aware of that. The Dead South would eventually garner a Juno Award for this album, Traditional Roots Album of the Year, which is very exciting for you, for them, for us as fans. One of the songs I thought was most exceptional on the album was Every Man Needs a Chew. And the reason being, that was actually one of the first songs they ever wrote as a band.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, before they released the first EP, first debut album, and then the sophomore album, which you recorded. Every Man Needs a Chew was the first song they ever physically wrote. But one of the great things about that song is the fiddle breakdown in the song features a former RSO concertmaster and probably one of the most energetic people I've ever met, Ed Minovich.
Energetic,
in the Regina
for sure.
Symphony.
Yeah.
So at what point in the recording process do you say to yourself, you know what, I got a bluegrass band here. I need a fiddle solo. And I know you've got, when you shared your Facebook post announcing that you were moving, you listed a handful of incredible local musicians that are just session players that are being in here a lot. So at what point do you go, do you know what else we need? We need Ed Minovich from the Regina Symphony Orchestra to come down here and tear this up.
Well, that was an interesting one because, Danny plays strings in the group, and we have cello all over the record, and bowed cello and layers cello, so it's almost like a string section. But that song took this turn where it's just sort of a slowdown and it's almost this real klezmer sort of speed up part. I thought this needs some kind of almost like a Eastern fiddle motif, and I'd performed with Ed. I'd seen him play lots, and I knew he was completely capable of the whole thing. And I just like having different people come into the studio and give it a try. And speaking of energy, the way I had him mic'd in here, I had to keep coming in and say, Ed, you got to stop moving around, because he just gets so into it.
Yeah.
He would close his eyes, and before you know it, he's almost turned around playing the other direction. But I think that decision came, it was actually like almost during mixing, where I think I was waiting for him to be available or something, because we had that part. There was a pretty long section in the middle of that song where it really breaks down and picks up. And that's where he fit in. Actually, the guys had left. I remember sending it down to them. I don't know where they were, or maybe they're probably in Germany or something. And I sent it over to them to say, "Hey, this is what me and Ed just did," and they were pretty stoked about it.
It's fantastic. It's probably one of my best parts, my favorite parts of the album.
Oh, nice.
So now let's listen to that. We'll listen to Ed Minovich, Dead South, Every Man Needs a Chew. And meanwhile, while we're listening to that, fire off your comments, and we'll try to ask some questions to Jason and give him some more feedback. Yeah, so I invite people to check out Dead South, Every Man Needs a Chew, Illusion and Doubt. And you go to about the 2-minute and 15-second mark to about the 3-minute mark, and you can listen to Ed Minovich basically turn around in the studio while he's playing fiddle so energetically.
He ripped it for sure. That was an epic record. Like there's a lot of there's some long songs on that record.
So I'll go to one comment. Actually, we're not getting many questions. We're getting more comments, which is great. So we're not getting questions like,
Good.
Jason, what's your favorite color? Do you want to go for coffee?
Green.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
We get a comment. Allison Green says, "Congrats on your wonderful work, Jason." And I think that sentiment is echoed not only from Allison, but from everybody here at CBC and Saskatchewan in general, and Saskatchewan artists, which you've lent a
thanks, Allison. Thank you, everyone.
So speaking of praise and thanks and gratitude, we actually got the Dead South are currently in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and we've got the guys to give you a special message from Muscle Shoals, which is another iconic studio, and say farewell.
Uh-oh.
Hey Jason, we're just down in Alabama right now working on album number 3, and we'd like to send you our best in all of your future musical endeavors. We are so grateful for all of the lessons and contributions you've made in our own career, especially with our time spent in Studio One with you, working on Illusion and Doubt. We've grown so much as musicians since then, so thank you for that.
Nice, that's Scotty.
Yeah. Scott Pringle. So that was just a nice little nod to you and kind of thank you for all you've done.
They're great guys. They've turned into really great friends. I see.
But isn't that something to see these great musicians who are great people succeed? And it gives the mentality of nice guys finish.
Well,
first,
you know
right?
what? It's they are the hardest working bunch of guys. Actually, not there's a couple artists that we'll probably talk about in a little while that are just hard. They hit the road. They work.
Yes.
You go to where you need to go and you get it done. So they're really, I'm really proud of those guys.
Well, at one time too, they got a SEMA Road Gold Award, which is playing to over 25,000 fans in one calendar year for all the work they had done, traveling and touring, which is...
I can totally relate. I mean, Waltons would do 250 shows a year. When it was rolling, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're on the road all the time. And it's hard work, and taking the music to the people is what you... That's why we do this. Making records is fantastic, but the payoff for me was always going out and performing it live.
Yeah, and seeing the reaction and talking to the actual people that love your music and are enjoying your music.
It's instant feedback.
Yes.
People see you and they like you. It's great.
So we'll talk about speaking of hard working, we'll talk about an album came out this year called Malice, Mercy, Grief, and Wrath. And that was released by a phenomenal singer-songwriter named Belle Plain. And that was recorded right here. And Sask Music does a thing every year where they get their members, the general public, to vote on their favorite albums of the year. And that album that you recorded right here with Belle was voted the #1 album in Saskatchewan in 2018. So can you tell me a little bit about, I know with this record, she delves into a little bit of country, kind of back to her jazz roots, a little some folk and stuff. So how did that come to be? Because she is so incredible at pushing the record and getting coverage for whether it be publicity, playing shows. But it's when you try to achieve publicity from somebody, when it's backed by a phenomenal record, it kind of carries itself eventually. So how did that record come to life?
It helps, yeah. Well, she's savvy, one-stop package music business person. She's one of the smartest people I know in that regard, and like a poet and an angel of a singer, and great songwriter. And I mean, I think if you look through the list of the artists that I've worked with, songwriting it's kind of at the foundation of all of it. And I'd worked with Blake, and that was before Mel's record, and just came along. She's like, I want to make a record. How do we start? When do we start? And so we started, as it always does with me, sending me songs. It's like, this is the amount of songs we want to do. Here's 10 songs, and I'm always big on send me whatever your newest is. Like, record it on the iPhone. I don't care what quality. I just want to hear what are you most excited about?
Exactly.
Newer stuff. And she came in with a fantastic band, and we started doing pre-production, and people came in and played, and it was a pleasure to make it.
Let's hear the first song off of Malice, Mercy, Grief and Wrath, Golden Ring, featuring Megan Nash. Now, we've also got some more. We got another comment, JJ Voss, who you may be familiar with.
Sure.
Yeah.
JJ's been in here, yeah.
Yeah, JJ Voss, local musician, singer, songwriter. He writes, congrats on a great run of Studio One. And JJ was actually in here with Alec Renians and Dean Cush recording their song, Watch Me, correct? For the Brothers Wayward, which was an initiative that they partnered with Saskatchewan Cancer Society. And it was an incredibly powerful song. So we also got another comment from Blake Berglund, who writes, the space on the board was magic. The combination of Jason and Studio One was essential to the soul of Realm. Lots of love in Jason's direction. Now, when you had mentioned that Blake was here as well, Blake, love to Blake. Blake is Belle Plain's husband, and Blake was in here prior to her, and he recorded his album Realms, which I think was incredible because Blake was synonymous for this twang country sound. You kind of took it in a cosmic direction with Blake, and was that was under Blake's direction, I assume, or was that kind of a collaboration?
Yeah, Blake had a very clear vision of the scope of what the record was to be. Like, he had I've never worked on a record where the sequence is in stone before you start. Like, this is the first song, this is got to be the last song, and this is the way it is, because it was a concept album. It was this great, amazing tale. And through evolution and self-discovery, and it's the layers of that record. There's so many layers, and probably of all the records I've made, that's one of the ones I'm most proud of, actually.
And I think it's one of the ones that stands out because you can tell there's a lot of work put into it.
It was epic. Yeah, we spent some time, and we experimented a lot, and I'm super proud of it, and proud of him and Mel for the pavement pounding that those guys do. Like, they're out.
Well, Blake Berglund sold what was it, over? Was it 10,000?
400,000. I don't know.
Oh, Blake sold albums door to door.
Oh yeah,
he went door to door selling albums.
He was staying with me at the time, and he would leave, put his sneakers on in the morning, and come home around supper and
go door to door and selling his albums, which is incredible.
Well, he had a goal. He follows through. He wanted to sell a certain amount, and he kept going till he did.
So additionally, too, then what you're saying is that if anybody ever records with you, that means you've also got a room to rent, I assume?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coffee, video games?
Coffee, Xbox, sure.
Perfect. Sounds great. All right, let's listen to Blake Berglund, Jesus in the Backbeat, off of his latest album, Realms.
momentary rush. And regardless of my best of intentions, my attempts were never quite enough.
So that was Blake Berglund Realms that was Blake Berglund, Jesus and the Backbeat off of his album Realms. Now we talked about the recording techniques and how doing stuff with Berglund was a little bit different, but there's one very special thing I want to talk to you about, and it's something I've noticed working in the same space as you. So we're surrounded in this amazing studio with some world-class equipment, world-class speakers, for you to play back. So if you're working with an artist and you play back a song, it would be just simple for you to press play and listen to it here. But what I've seen you do is you go out to your car and you crank it on your car speakers.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing that because it's how everybody else is going to be hearing it, or why do you do that?
Partly, I've had the same model of car with the same stereo system probably now for the last 3 cars. I keep buying the same car because of the stereo. And it's just a way for me to reference mixes to get out of this place, like in here during mixing. Mixing is a whole other monster when it comes to making records. It's separate from the production side, somewhat intertwined. Lots of people prefer to have a different person mix. Anyways, it's a little bit of separation. So again, it's a way just to separate myself out of the environment and listen to the mixes in a different place. And I'm used to it. So every room's got its flaws, and like this room in particular, mixes would come out a little dark, not quite as bright always. So I'd go to the car and fake the mastering, crank up some treble, and go, okay, well, once the treble is turned up in mastering, is it going to highlight something that's trebly underneath? Mixing's a dark art. It's crazy. I don't know how people do it. I do it. I don't know how.
So then for people watching that may not know what mixing is, it's essentially the art of mixing all the instruments
all
together.
The elements, bringing in my case here, at least 32 analog channels and putting them down to left and right 2 channels.
So as well, too, when it comes to the production, the engineering side of a studio, you've also worked, can you tell us a story about Kieran Semple and what happened with Kieran and how he got involved here?
Well, he's an ambitious young guy that loves music and loves the recording process, and he came to me by chance. He just sent me an email saying, "Hey, if you ever need anybody in the studio, I'd love to come and just sort of watch and see what goes on." And about that time was Nick Fay and the Deputies were in
with Michael. What was yours?
Yeah, with Michael Phillip, and I was kind of assisting. I wanted to assist with Michael because just to get more engineering chops, because he's a phenomenal engineer. So I thought, I'll assist you. And I said, would you mind if this young fella came in and just sort of had a look and see what was going on? And so Kieran came in, and he was here often and didn't really miss much. I mean, the old saying is like, well, when you go to a recording studio, you got to start by sweeping the floors and getting coffee. There's a little bit of that, but I mean, pretty lucky place that he was hands-on. I think I left him with a client to produce his own thing like a month later. Like, his quick study, great ears, super talented.
And that's kind of blazed a path for him. And speaking of blazing a path, so Scott Pettigrew, who just released his album Rising Tide, actually started a label, Blue Revolution Group, and he was in here a lot too, working with bands like the Dead Levy and stuff like that. So there was guidance there as well too. So the spark for you, you've basically provided that spark to other musicians, which I think is fantastic. So how does that feel as a producer, as a musician, to go, you know what, the future is in good hands of Saskatchewan music, because you are contributing to that?
Yeah. I guess the thing that I always impart is just the importance of the song, like all the stuff that I work on. It's song-based music, and I came up in a time where you had to get, if you're recording to tape, you had to get it. Like you couldn't fix syllables. So I put an emphasis on being able to play live as well, and it's nice to help out, I guess. I mean, to have the room available. I mean, it wasn't free. They were coming in with clients.
Absolutely.
And it was helping me sustain the room. So any knowledge or experience I've imparted to these younger producers, I'm happy to do it. My way isn't the right way. It's not the only way. It's just the way that I do things. But it is an emphasis on song arrangement and vocal performances and harmonies.
And you talk about the art of the song, and I kind of want to go to the fact that with the art of the song. Songs are so important, and it's how you or I, hearing that new favorite song is how you kind of get tapped into an artist. So for you, obviously hearing Colter Wall, you go, something special with Sleeping on the Blacktop, and you knew it when he was playing it in your living room. So then also too, let's talk about your keen ear for upcoming talent or just raw talent in general. And that is actually one of the performers that you are working with now, which may actually be the last one in this space.
It was, yeah.
Which is Marie-Claire, who people may recognize as a lead singer of a local, very popular local band, the New Montagues. So tell us a little bit about Marie-Claire and what you guys are working on.
Well, me and her's relationship goes back actually a few years because I met her when she was 22. Yeah. I had seen her sing with the Montagues, and I said, man, you're a phenomenal singer. Do you write songs? And started sending me some video clips of her. She'd done some stuff on Facebook, just her in her bedroom singing these songs that she had written. And I went, wow, she's like an amazing songwriter. And so she started sending me more and more stuff. Like I think she would write something in the morning and send it in the afternoon and say, what do you think of this? It was all great. So that was a couple years ago, and we'd kind of started doing some recording, some light recording, get her in, and it was just something I was doing more of as a passion project with her. And then a paying client would come along, so she'd kind of get pushed off to the side. But all the while, it was a good thing because she was maturing as a singer and as a songwriter, and actually started doing her own shows in the last year or so. Fantastic. With the crack rhythm section of Mike Thompson, Sean Patton, and I really felt like she was coming into her own as a performer, and I could hear her voice maturing. So when I decided to move on beyond this place, I thought, well, we have to get Marie-Claire's record done
before you go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that became the focus. We started in November, and just finished mixes 4 days ago.
So very special for the people watching. We're going to play an exclusive. Nobody has ever heard this. Like you and the band.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Have heard that, and that's it. So
well, Cody's in the back there dismantling some plate reverbs. He's heard it as well. Yeah.
All right, so let's play Marie-Claire, Tell Me Why.
Should have said not mastered.
Don't touch me there, I'm trying to move on. She's at the bottom of the stairs, pack my things, I'm long gone. Won't hear me crying, we made a deal. You said you'd come home, but here I am, waiting night again. So
See, that's incredible, and it's catchy, and it's unique, and it kind of personifies the fact that you weren't just a one-stop shop for a specific genre of music. I mean, you welcomed with open arms all these, from the Dead South to Colter to Bell to Blake. You had all these different things. I mean, West Amabu did some Celtic music in here. So there's been a lot of variety of stuff in here. Now, what were you saying about the tambourine in the single?
Oh, I was just mentioning that, because the tambourine's quite prominent. It's funny, like listening to these mixes, I haven't heard them anywhere except for here and in my car. Actually at home too. But the tambourine player's name's Jack Ashford, and he's kind of a legend. I sent the tracks down to Memphis, and him and an engineer Jack and an engineer went into a studio and laid the most killer tambourine. Like, you think, oh, hey, man, I can play tambourine. Let me do some tambo. No. This guy's like from Motown, and he played on, heard it through the grapevine, and some Supremes. Like, it's a legend.
It's incredible, which is incredible.
It was pretty cool.
And it's incredible for Marie to have that on her passion, like her first ever. Yeah.
We were lucky, and I mean, I have to thank Chris Craig for that. He said, who you should get to do tambourines? Jack Ash was like, well, as if, and he contacted him, so he kind of brokered a deal, which was really great. Guests on an album are always the unknown element. You never know what that's going to bring, and I've always been really keen on who can we get in to play on this record? Let's exploit the great musicians and talent that we have locally. Not Jackson, Memphis, but nobody can play tambourine like Jack in the city. Maybe Mike Thompson. Anyways,
maybe.
I love having the guests. The guests are great. And Mel's record, full of guests on that. I like it because you don't know what you're going to get. Right?
And isn't collaboration, and isn't the sense of Saskatchewan music, and you would probably know better than most, Saskatchewan music, the scene, it's all about working together.
It's a
a
great
rising
community,
tide, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it is a great community here. And I had a lot of the same people come in on lots of the records. Partly because we would create a shorthand. The studio musicians would know what I was kind of expecting. Like Jeremy that plays with Mel full time. I think he's on almost every record that I did here, just because he knows what I like to hear and knew the process. Would sit in there with the organ. We sent it out to the Leslie out here, and yeah, just and they're great people, and everybody knows everybody, more or less. Everybody cheers for each other, and yeah, it's good.
Which is fantastic. It's great that you do that, and it's great that there was a space. Now, I want to note that obviously this isn't a farewell for you. You're not retiring. You're just moving on to different scenery, as we talked about.
Retiring from what?
So, but it is great to know, and we kind of did this today because we wanted to shine a light on some of the amazing work that's being done here.
Yeah.
And the catalog of music, it's going to live forever, but I think it's worthy of praise and it's worthy of being noted. So I want to thank you on behalf of all music fans and all music listeners for all the hard work you've done while in this space. We're looking forward to hearing what you're going to come out with in the future, whether it be in the spring, summer, fall, winter. Whatever you're listening to in your car, I assume will be the next big thing. So I'll keep my eyes out for that and my ears out. And I want to thank everybody for watching today as well, too. Watching online. And thank you again, Jason. It was really great to be able to chat with you and just to kind of get a little bit of glimpse into so much that happened here. We touched on a small bit of it, but overall, 6 years, a lot of music, and an infinite amount of memories.
Yeah, it's been great. And I have to send a special thanks out to CBC and a fellow named John Anderson, who allowed me to come in here sort of sight unseen and just took a chance. So who's this musician's going to come in and he's going to what? He's on a secure floor at the newsroom. He's going to have musicians. He trusted me, and it allowed me to open the doors to countless musicians and songwriters that came in. I didn't work with everybody that came in here. I'm proud of all the work that I did, and super proud of all the musicians and songwriters that came in and helped out.
Awesome. Well, let's leave today with some more music from the Dead South. And thank you again, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers to the future.